Welcome back to another geography lesson. Today we're doing geography number 4, divisions of the earth. A big thank you to Mr. Vaughn for making these wonderful worksheets for us. He is very proud of this one right here. We're going to talk about what that is about in just a few minutes. So let's begin by reading Genesis 1, 9, and 10. And then you'll be writing it down and copy it right out of your Bible, either this translation or whatever translation you have at home. You should have this one, but you might have one you prefer. So it says, "And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear. And it was so." Before that, many creation historians believe the whole earth was covered in water. And it even says in another place there was water above and water below. So some people believe that there was a layer of water above the earth. So a layer of water out here, like the edge of the atmosphere. And then there was the sky in between, and then there was the water on the surface of the earth. This layer of water helped protect the earth in its early days. But this is talking about the water on the surface of the earth. So the whole earth was covered in water, and then God said, let dry ground appear, and it was so. Verse 10, God called the dry ground land, and he gathered the gathered waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. So you write that in your space right here. So God likes to give things names. He had Adam name the animals at the beginning, but this is even before that. So we're going to learn a little bit about the earth and some of the names of some of the land and water features of the earth. So come on over to the whiteboard and we'll write down some of these really big numbers. On the next 3 lines on your paper, we're going to put down the total surface area of the earth and how much of that's water and how much of that is land. So the surface area of something is, if you made like a skin to go over it or a cover to go over it, and then you opened that up and you measured it, that's the surface area. It's measured, for the earth it's measured in square miles. So square, that's 1 mile on each side. So it's a pretty big piece of land. The total surface area of the earth is this old number right here. Let's see if you can read this number based on some things we've learned about place value. So this is the hundreds, the thousands, the millions. So 197,198,204 square miles. Write that down on the total surface area of the earth. The next line asks for what the land covers. The land covers 57,765,000 square miles. So when there's nothing here, then you just stop at 1,000 and say square miles. So if we rounded these up, this would round up to 200. Let me get a color. Hold on. This would round up to 200 million. This is where rounding is helpful. And this would round, let's round this to the nearest 10 million. This would round to 60 million. So now you can see that out of the 200 million that the whole earth is, the land is only 60 of those million. So it's a smaller part. And then the water, 139,433,204. So let's round that to 140 million. So 140 million plus 60 million makes the whole 200 million. So if you'd like to write those red numbers in with a red or a colored pen of some sort, that might be interesting. It's a little easier to compare them now, isn't it? Than these big old long numbers. Your brain just kind of goes, blah, because those numbers are so big. But the total is 200. The land is 60, the water is 140. That's easier to see. 200 million, 60 million, 140 million. Much easier to think about. All right, so that's what this drawing shows us. This is the portion, see how it's brown? This represents on a pie chart the part of the earth that's land, and this represents the part of the earth that's water. Now, this is water, and this is land, and this is land, and this is land, and this is water. But Mr. Vaughn drew this pie chart for us that shows what percentage of the earth is land and what percentage of the earth is water. And that's all it is. It's either land or water on the surface. So those two percentages should add up to the whole thing, which is 100%. So let's write down those numbers. The land part, we do this in green. So this will go next to those lines on the pie chart, but I'm going to write it next to the words so that you know. So the brown line represents land. The land covers 29.2%. So write that down on the brown line. You can write it out here too if you want, but it goes on this brown line right here, representing the land. And so the water is the rest of it, 70.8%. So that goes on this blue line right here. The water, so the water is about 70%. The land is about 30, a little less than 30%, but if you look at it as 70-30, that adds up to 100, doesn't it? So that's how it's divided. So the earth is much more water than it is land. All right, now let's write down on the second page the names of the different types of divisions of land. There's 5 major divisions of land. I'm going to write those down for you, and then you can write them on the lines. The land is divided into these 5 types of land masses. These are the labels we've come up with for them. Continents, islands, peninsulas, capes, and isthmuses. Isthmuses. I can hardly say that with my braces. You might never heard of isthmuses before. Isthmuses. There's a lot of letters in there. There's a th. So we're going to learn what those are in our next lesson. But those are the labels that we've come up with for the different sort of forms of land. The big blobs are obviously continents. Then islands, although there is one island that is also a continent. Can you think what it would be? That's right, Australia. Yep, it is an island, but it's also a continent because it's a really big island. Now I'm going to pause the video and write down the different labels we've come up with for different types of water formations. All right, I'll write them down while you do. The first one, well, we all know, oceans. Different from oceans a little bit are seas. We're going to learn about why some are oceans and some are seas in another lesson. We have straits. Like the Straits of Magellan that we learned about last year. Sounds. Not like sounds you hear, but a sound. There's a sound, very famous and beautiful sound up in Washington State. Bays. Gulfs. Like the Gulf of Mexico, harbors. Rivers. Okay, so these go over here on your list. So, oh, sorry, no, they don't. They go on my list, but not yours. Rivers. and lakes. Those are all the places that water is found, different names for different types of water features on the earth. And we'll learn what those mean in a future lesson as well. So write those down. So let's look at the map again. The world map. I'm following you. Here it is. And, excuse me, the question asks, most of the Earth's land is in which hemisphere? So here's the equator, which we've already learned about. So below my arm is the southern hemisphere. Above my arm is the northern hemisphere. Which one has more land mass? Right. The most of the Earth's land is in the northern hemisphere. Northern, N-O-R-T-H-E-R-N. So most of the Earth's water is in the southern hemisphere. South, S-O-U-T-H, E-R-N, southern. So there's much more water down here and much more land up here. But remember, under the water is dirt, land, or rock, probably more you could say. So if you could suck all the water up off the earth, the whole thing would be earth. So it's not like these are blobs of land floating on the ocean. Right here, underneath, is all rock. Ooh, and it pokes up right there, that's Hawaii. And under here is all rock, and ooh, it comes back up, and there's Europe. But the portion that is above water level, there's more of that in the northern hemisphere. This last little thing, it looks like a little kitty picture, but it's to illustrate the divisions of land, water, and air. So you may color this 3 different colors, like green for the land, blue for the water, and light blue for the air, or turquoise blue, or whatever you'd like. But it shows you, just reminding us that there are 3 divisions that God created. The land, and the land stops at a certain point. There's a division. The land is stopping and the water is starting. So the division of the earth between land, water, and air. And so we'll be back next week with more detailed information about land and about water and what we're calling, what are these different weird names like isthmus? What are those things? So we're going to find out. See you next time.